Have you ever wondered why certain relationships with your parents leave you feeling confused, guilty, or even invisible? Have you ever sensed that something in their behavior feels wrong, yet it is so subtle that you struggle to name it? Toxic parenting is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it hides behind what looks like care, love, or even encouragement. That is what makes it so destructive. Carl Jung believed that much of human suffering comes not from the obvious, but from the unconscious shadows people carry. In family life, these shadows often appear in the way parents unconsciously act out their own unresolved conflicts on their children. When this happens, the bond between parent and child becomes distorted, and the child carries wounds that can last into adulthood. In this video, we will uncover the two most hidden psychological signs that reveal you may have a toxic parent. These are not the familiar red flags everyone talks about, but subtle patterns Jung's insights can help us understand. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the Mental Dose channel and join our Telegram community, where you'll get early access to new videos on psychology, toxic relationships, and personal and spiritual growth. Now, let's get started. Toxic parenting is often misunderstood. When we hear the phrase, we imagine shouting, neglect, or open abuse. But psychology shows that toxicity can also hide behind silence, subtle words, or kindness that masks control. Research on family dynamics, such as the work of Dr. Murray Bowen and family systems theory, demonstrates that dysfunction is often transmitted not through dramatic events, but through quiet, repeated patterns. Jung's theory of the shadow gives us a deeper lens to see this. Parents, like all people, have parts of themselves they repress, their insecurities, failures, and unfulfilled desires. When these shadow elements are not recognized, they get projected onto their children. The parent might act as if they are guiding, protecting, or caring, but in reality, they are transferring their own unresolved struggles. Recognizing this mechanism is the first step to identifying the more subtle, hidden signs of toxicity. And once we understand how the shadow operates within family life, we can begin to see the first hidden pattern it creates. The subtle but powerful way parents invalidate their children's emotions while disguising it as care. One of the most hidden but damaging signs is emotional invalidation presented as kindness. This is not the same as ordinary criticism or harsh rejection. Instead, it appears in gentle-sounding phrases like, "Don't be so sensitive," "You'll be fine," "Stop worrying," or "There's nothing to cry about." On the surface, these words may seem like comfort, but their effect is to deny the reality of your feelings. Psychological research on emotional invalidation, such as studies by Dr. John Gottman and Dr. Linehan in the field of dialectical behavior therapy, shows that repeated dismissal of emotions leads to long-term difficulties in self-regulation and self-esteem. When your inner experiences are constantly minimized, you begin to doubt your own perception. You may grow up thinking your sadness is weakness, your anger is wrong, or your needs are selfish. Jung would interpret this as the parent's shadow at work. The emotions they cannot tolerate in themselves, fear, sadness, vulnerability, are the very ones they silence in their children. By saying "be strong" or "don't cry," they are not truly supporting you, but rejecting in you what they cannot face in themselves. This sign is so subtle because it hides behind words that appear caring. Yet over time, it creates a deep fracture. The child learns that their inner world is invalid, and that lesson can echo into adulthood. This brings us to the importance of recognizing why such patterns, although hidden, have such powerful consequences. It is easy to identify a parent who yells or abandons responsibility. It is much harder to identify toxicity when it wears the mask of love. Yet psychological research suggests that subtle invalidation can be just as damaging. A 2017 study published in the Journal of Child and Family Studies found that children exposed to emotional invalidation developed higher levels of shame and chronic self-doubt. Unlike obvious abuse, which can sometimes be resisted or recognized, hidden invalidation seeps in quietly, shaping how the child sees themselves. This is why the first hidden sign is so dangerous. It teaches you to question your own reality. When your emotions are repeatedly denied, you lose trust in your inner compass. And without that compass, you may struggle later in life to set boundaries, express needs, or feel worthy of being heard. But toxicity is not only about denying feelings in the present. Sometimes it extends into the future, as parents unconsciously attempt to live out their own abandoned dreams through their children. And this leads us to the second hidden sign. Before we move on to the second hidden sign of having a toxic parent, if this video is helping you see your own family dynamics more clearly, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from it. And if you'd like to support this kind of thoughtful content, you can click the thanks button below. Your support truly helps us continue. Now let's continue. The second hidden sign is when a parent projects their unfulfilled dreams, regrets, or ambitions onto their child. Instead of supporting you to discover who you are, they subtly steer you into the path they never walked. They may encourage a career, a talent, or a lifestyle, not because it reflects your desires, but because it reflects theirs. Psychologists call this parental enmeshment, where boundaries blur and the child becomes a vessel for the parent's identity. Dr. Carol McBride, in her work on narcissistic parenting, describes how children of such parents often carry the burden of becoming the extension of their parents. Jung would interpret this as projection of the shadow. The parent cannot face their own missed opportunities, so they push them onto the child. This is hidden because it rarely appears as force. Instead, it is wrapped in pride and encouragement. I always wanted to do this, and you're lucky enough to get the chance. To the outside world, it may even look like support. But beneath it, the message is clear. You are not free to become yourself. Instead, you are tasked with fulfilling the unlived life of your parent. The psychological cost is heavy. Children raised under this burden often grow up with confusion about their own identity, difficulty making independent choices, and a lingering sense of guilt whenever they try to separate from the path laid out for them. The child's authentic self is sacrificed to carry the parent's unresolved script. The two most hidden signs of having a toxic parent, emotional invalidation disguised as kindness, and being forced to live the parent's unfulfilled script, are easy to overlook because they do not look like obvious abuse. They masquerade as care, support, or encouragement. Yet their effects run deep. One silences your inner world, teaching you to distrust your feelings. The other denies your individuality, pushing you to live someone else's life. Jung's teachings remind us that shadows, when left unacknowledged, do not disappear. They simply act themselves out in other forms. Parents who cannot face their own pain often hand it to their children. By learning to see these hidden signs, you do not become cynical about your parents. You become conscious. Consciousness allows you to step out of inherited patterns, to reclaim your emotions, and to live your own life rather than a borrowed one. Parenting at its best nurtures the individuality of the child. Toxic parenting, especially when hidden, does the opposite. It denies the child's reality and identity. By recognizing these two hidden signs, you can begin to free yourself from the unconscious shadows passed down to you. Carl Jung's insights remind us that becoming conscious of these patterns is the first step toward breaking free from them. Once you see the shadow at work, you have the power to step out of it and live a life that is truly your own. Now I'd like to hear from you. Have you ever recognized these hidden signs in your own family experience? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to know your perspective. And if you found this video meaningful, make sure to subscribe to Mental Dose for more content on psychology, toxic relationships, and personal growth.